I'm going to be doing a problem, an FE style problem on present worth. So the question reads, you must choose between 4 pieces of equipment based on given cash flows. The pieces have a lifespan of 8 years and the discount rate is 12%. What are the top 2 projects, the cheapest ones, and what is the difference in their present worth? Present worth puts money from the future in terms of what it would be worth today, and you use that, you evaluate that with a discount rate. So looking at the table, we have the initial cost, the annual cost, and the salvage value, which is the value of the material after you sell it back over 8 years. So the equations that we're going to use are these equations. So the first equation is going to give us a present worth, and this one is used for costs that are consecutive over a certain number of times. So P1 is going to deal with the annual cost. So that's what A1 is going to be. That's going to be our annual cost. And in P2, this equation deals with a cost or profit that is only one time at a certain year. So N is still going to be 8, and I is going to be 0.12 for both of these problems. But A2 is going to be the salvage value because that's a one-time thing. And So here are the equations with N and I plugged in. So all we're going to have to do is plug in A1 and A2. So looking at equipment A, the first thing we want to do is do a cash flow. I already did these ones, so I'm going to do an example here. And the cash flow diagram is going to look like this. So at time 0, which is the initial cost, we buy equipment A for $25,000. So it's down because it's a cost. And then the annual cost is $8,000. So we want 8 arrows. 1, 2, 3, 4. And each one has a value of $8,000, so that's a cost. And then at the end of 8 years, we sell it for $2,500. So when we're looking at our values here, we also have our initial cost, which is CI, is $25,000. A1 is $8,000, and you want to make sure that this is negative $8,000 because it is a cost. You're paying for this. So we plug this into our P1 equation, and we get that P1 equals negative $39,741. Now A2 is our salvage value, and since we're getting paid this, it's positive, so it's $2,500. We plug this into our P2 equation, and we get P2 equals $1,010. Now, in order to find our final present value, we're going to plug this into this equation, which just states the final present value equals P1 plus P2 minus the initial cost. So when we add P1 and P2 and subtract our initial cost, we get a P final of negative $63,731. We'll do the same thing for equipment B. We have an initial cost of $35,000. A1, which is our annual cost, equals negative $6,000. And by plugging that into this equation, we get this P1 to equal negative $29,806. Our salvage value is $3,500, positive because we're selling it again. P2, plugging A2 into this equation, we get $1,414. Now, solving for the final present value, we get negative $63,392. Going to equipment C, we have an initial cost of $20,000. A1, our annual cost, is negative $9,000. Then by plugging that into the equation, we get P1 equals negative $44,709. And our salvage value, A2, equals $2,000. Plugging that into the equation, we get a P2 value of $808. And P final, by summing up our P1, P2, and C1, we get negative $63,901. Finally, for equipment D, we have an initial cost of $40,000. A1 equals negative $5,000. P1 will equal negative $24,838. Now our salvage value A2 equals $4,000. And plugging that into the equation, we get P2 equals negative $63,222, with a final present value of negative $63,222. So since we're looking for the cheapest, or basically which one is going to cost the least, we want to look for the lowest negative numbers, which is B and D. And so the top two projects would be B and D, and the difference in their present worths, we're going to do the absolute value so we can get a positive difference, minus negative 63222 equals 170. So here's your answers. B and D are the top two, and the difference between their present worths is 170.